Hello and welcome to World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. CAR President formally invites Putin to seal alliance. Burkina Faso crushes new coup plot as arrests sweep nation. Venezuela honors soldiers killed in US military raid. Africa Union makes demand on Israel to withdraw Somaliland recognition. ECOWAS condemns US military action in Venezuela. South Africa drops objections to US-wide refugee program. Ivorian government resigns following ruling party landslide. And now the news in full. Central African Republic CAR President Faustin-Archange Touadéra has formally extended an invitation to Russian President Vladimir Putin to visit Bangui, signaling a strengthening of political and security ties between the two nations following Touadéra's re-election. The announcement was made shortly after the CAR leader secured a third term in office in the December 28, 2025 presidential election, where he won a clear majority of the votes according to provisional results. Touadéra described Putin as a key partner and attentive leader, reflecting on years of cooperation that have seen Moscow play a central role in supporting CAR's government through security assistance, including the deployment of Russian military personnel and private security forces to help counter armed groups. The partnership, which began in earnest in 2018 when the CAR became the first West and Central African state to invite Russian Wagner Group forces, has expanded to include economic and strategic dimensions such as mining and infrastructure development. In the video interview announcing the invitation, Touadéra emphasized the importance of continuity in foreign relations and the benefits of Russia's involvement in CAR's peace and stabilization efforts. Authorities in Burkina Faso say they have thwarted a new coup attempt against President Captain Ibrahim Traoré, uncovering the alleged plot before it could be carried out and initiating a series of arrests of suspects according to official statements. Government sources reported that security services intercepted the planned operation late on January 3, 2026, preventing what they describe as a coordinated effort to destabilize the country. Security Minister Mohamedou Sana told state media that the plot, which included plans to target senior military and civilian leaders and possibly neutralize key institutions, was disrupted thanks to effective intelligence work. Arrests of individuals suspected to be involved in the conspiracy were underway as investigations continued. Officials said the plot was one of the several alleged attempts to remove Traoré, who assumed power after a military takeover in September 2022 and has since faced recurring political instability and security challenges. The latest claims, while not independently verified, highlight ongoing tension within Burkina Faso's transitional political environment as the ruling junta seeks to maintain control amid sporadic unrest. Authorities have publicly assured the population that the situation remains under control, with the government emphasizing the professionalism of the country's security agencies in detecting and countering threats to state stability. Venezuela's military has held a large public funeral in Caracas on January 7, 2026, to honor dozens of soldiers killed during a controversial U.S. military operation that led to the capture of former President Nicolas Maduro the previous weekend. The ceremony took place amid a heightened climate of national mourning and international scrutiny. The solemn procession saw wooden coffins draped in Venezuelan flags carried by uniformed military personnel at a state-owned cemetery in southern Caracas, accompanied by music from a military orchestra and the participation of grieving family members and fellow servicemen. Ceremonial gunfire marked the burials as the military paid tribute to those who fell during the dead-of-night raid. According to official military sources, at least 24 Venezuelan security officers were killed in the U.S. action, which the Venezuelan government has fiercely criticized, and additional casualties among civilians and allied personnel have been reported. Venezuelan Attorney General Tarek William Saab said prosecutors would investigate the deaths, referring to the operation as a possible war crime. The government also declared a 7-day period of national mourning in response to the fatalities. The African Union (AU) has issued a formal demand that Israel reverse its recent recognition of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland, calling the decision unilateral, illegitimate, and incompatible with international and continental law. The statement was made on January 7, 2026, following deliberations by the AU's Council for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. In its communique, the AU strongly condemned Israel's recognition of Somaliland, a territory that declared independence from Somalia in 1991, but has not been recognized by any United Nations member state until Tel Aviv's move on December 26, 2025. The bloc described the recognition as a violation of Somalia's sovereignty, territorial integrity and unity, principles enshrined in both the UN Charter and the African Union Constitutive Act. The AU emphasized that no external actor has the legal authority to alter the territorial configuration of an existing member state, and said Israel's decision and the subsequent visit of Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar to Hargeisa could set a dangerous precedent that threatens peace and stability across the Horn of Africa. The statement underscores concerns that the move could undermine collaborative security efforts and embolden other separatist movements on the continent.
We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has called on the international community to respect the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Venezuela following the United States military operation that resulted in the capture of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife in early January 2026. ECOWAS made the appeal in an official statement issued in Abuja, expressing deep concern over the unfolding situation in the South American nation, while acknowledging the rights of states to combat serious international crimes such as terrorism and drug trafficking. The West African bloc stressed that such actions must still adhere to international law and respect national sovereignty, including principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter. ECOWAS reminded all states that respect for these principles is central to maintaining global stability and peaceful coexistence. ECOWAS also aligned its position with statements from the African Union, which similarly urged restraint and stressed that complex internal challenges within Venezuela should be addressed through inclusive political dialogue among Venezuelans themselves, without external interference. Both regional organizations expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people's right to determine their own political future through peaceful and lawful means. South Africa has assured the United States it will not interfere with the controversial U.S. refugee admissions program that prioritizes white South Africans primarily from the Afrikaner community. The assurance came during a closed-door meeting in late December 2025 after diplomatic tensions flared when South African authorities raided and disrupted a U.S. refugee processing site in Johannesburg that was handling applications related to the scheme. The internal meeting summary reviewed by international media shows that South African officials told U.S. diplomats that Pretoria will not obstruct the refugee program despite rejecting the government's underlying premise that white South Africans face systemic persecution. South African authorities have firmly rejected claims of white genocide or mass discrimination against the white minority, a narrative advanced by proponents of the U.S. policy, but dismissed by South African leaders as baseless. Although the two countries have had public disagreements over the initiative, South Africa's government indicated during the December discussions that it respects the right of individuals to migrate to destinations of their choice and will not take action to derail the U.S. program even if it disagrees with its rationale. The Ivorian government has formally resigned after the ruling rally of Houthi for Democracy and Peace (RHDP) secured a landslide victory in the country's December 27, 2025 legislative elections. President Alassane Ouattara, who was re-elected to a fourth term in October 2025, accepted the government's resignation on January 7, 2026 as part of a constitutional and political process that follows major electoral mandates. The RHDP's overwhelming parliamentary majority, winning more than 75% of seats, was interpreted as a strong public endorsement of Ouattara's leadership and political agenda. Despite the resignation of ministers and the Prime Minister, major changes in personnel are not expected, as many of the outgoing government members were themselves elected to parliamentary seats and are likely to be reappointed in a new cabinet. President Ouattara instructed the outgoing team to continue handling day-to-day affairs while preparations for the formation of a new government proceed, with a new cabinet anticipated to be announced by the end of January 2026. And that's all we have on the world news on Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.